I gave you immortality, and this is how you repay me.
Time. Time is precious. In 2083, a company named Eternia offered an alternative to death through clones. This was an attempt to buy more time for humanity and to fight pains of this world. This, however, began to undermine humanity as a whole. The clones looked, sounded, and acted like their human counterparts, but were nothing more than machines with downloaded memories. 3 years later, there was an attack on a major Eternia building thought to be led by a rebellion group called the Threads of Fate, because of their belief that the clones were unnatural. This attack destroyed many of the facilities' carbon copies, and even uploaded a virus that caused clones to lash out at humans. During the initial attack, the player is thrust into the game as an ex-marine who is going in to make a copy of himself. We have placed the player in first-person perspective to give a sense of impending action, as the game ramps up to a full dystopian FPS action RPG. We wanted to force the player to feel like they needed to watch their back around every corner, regardless of whether they were in a pristine metropolis area or the despondent waste. We will showcase the city's prosperity through the clean architecture bathed in neon lights, making them feel like beacons of hope, all the while casting a dark shadow on the areas outside city limits. Beyond these, the decay and destruction of the forlorn wastes will impress the depth and sorrow of a broken society through dark colors. Each new chapter will be partnered with a different hue to emphasize the overarching story unfolding. With each change, the overall feeling will transform from a joyous hope for humanity to a deep foreboding of a cold and dying world. To greater emphasize decay of society and mood, the player will be able to hear sounds close to them. That way, they get a sense of their immediate surroundings. Upon entering darker regions, the player will get an eerie feeling from the sounds of low bass drums, brass, and faint whistles of flutes echoing throughout lifeless towns. They can hear people talking about how they are going to survive the next day, with commotion of knowing whether Eternia is coming into their town or not. While entering the brighter cities, they will hear a fanfare of trumpets and French horns followed by a rich sound of other lighter instruments. Walking through town, they could hear the party life, ranging across club music, horns honking in every direction, and conversations about everyday routines. The world will be filled with strong sound everywhere the player goes. From the footsteps of the player within the world, buildings falling and gunfire heard from the distance, to each tool the player uses, will all have their own unique audio, giving each action, even down to the sound of the holotool flickering on, its own sense of life. The holotool is a mechanism that serves a variety of functions. The player can utilize it to temporarily project objects via hard light, useful in the moment. If the player seeks to reach new heights, it can form a grappling hook to pull them up, or grasp distant objects, even the weapons out of enemies' hands. Up close and personal, it can be used as a sword. It can also provide light for visibility and scan objects to retrieve information. In the case where immediate survival is paramount, it can even be used to generate an entire suit of holographic armor. Many of these functions will be hidden until the player finds a schematic that allows them to alter their holotool for each optimization. Blueprints can also increase the effectiveness of already known tools, such as the shield being able to withstand more force, or the sword dealing more damage. The purpose behind these designs was to equip the player with a tool to allow for their various playing styles and to help navigate the broken world. A world not only broken, but falling apart. The world space has become a remnant of a bygone era. We aim to bring the feeling of rust and decay to the forefront of the gaming experience. Buildings are not only fully and completely destructible, but decay over time depending on both structure and material. Once a building passes a 75% destructibility threshold, it begins to collapse as pieces fall out of place. Entire buildings will crumble down from the smallest house to the tallest skyscraper. We chose to express the dangers of climbing into dilapidated structures and to give a feeling of depth to the world around its progressive decay. Through both time and player interaction, the game will allow players to build anything from a small settlement to rebuilding a whole village or town. With this, players can guide people to their settlements to dwell in. We chose to allow this to demonstrate that humanity continues to preserve, and to facilitate the feeling of safety and sanctuary, no matter how fleeting it may seem. But this doesn't come without vulnerability, since everything is completely destructible. That safety must be sustained by repairing and fending off attacks. Of course, the attacks won't be left to the player alone, but they will be assisted by the game's NPC. The AI comes equipped with what we call a personality module, where each NPC is given a name, race, age, gender, opinions, personal knowledge, a job placement, and levels of safety, need, and comfort. Each is uniquely generated in the game, and no two NPCs will ever be alike in a separate copy. The NPCs will focus entirely on their needs and goals until they are fulfilled. They will also be mindful of situations or environments that become hazardous in any way. For instance, most of the NPCs in a small village may be taken out by an attack. The remaining may feel unsafe to stay and will migrate to a larger city. We chose to do this to eliminate the stress of character creation and to teach the player that anything or anyone can be both destroyed and replaced. We replaced traditional trade with bartering due to the reverting back to the reliance of need-based transactions. The player will be allowed to see all their inventory as well as whomever they are trading with. The trade will cease when both parties have agreed or disagreed upon the outcome. The complex AI system will force the player to think about what they are wanting, and what the NPC may be willing to trade it for. This was to get people to think beyond themselves and guide them into understanding what others may be searching for. Our way of thinking on the behalf of others was through understanding the many limitations a player could have. It is a great relief when games are able to alleviate the stresses of our world and allow the freedom to engage in another. We have taken special care to capture the appropriate subtitles for low vision players by using 24-point font with white letters and black shadows. That way it would be large enough that anyone would be able to see it in the room and would have enough contrast that no matter what is happening in the background, the text would still be legible. The game is also built with color blindness in mind, and has taken care to look out for anything that could be of hindrance by not pairing hard colors together. We are also optimizing our controllers to give complete control over to the player no matter their needs. Seizures due to flashing lights is no joking matter, and as such we created a flicker dampen mode which alters anything that flashes or flickers in a rapid pace by cutting it down to a level that would result in little to no seizures.